Hey everyone. Hey Patience. What's up, Patience? How are you? Thank you for joining Facebook Live video today. I am waiting for a few more folks to come in and we will begin. Hey, Noellen. Hey, Nya, how are you? Thanks for turning in. Hey, Tamika. How are you, Tamika? Thanks for joining in. Just a few more minutes and we will be starting with the segment that I have for you guys tonight. Hey Nya, how are you? Thanks, Patience. Thank you, sis. I know, I am very excited too, Tamika. So tonight we will be talking about why do people seek counseling? What are some most common reasons why we should seek counseling? So I will turn the music off so that you guys can hear me. So welcome again to my very first segment of Facebook Live, and I'm super excited. I was asked to do this live video by a friend who runs a group for women, and she asked me to definitely speak on the importance of seeking therapy. And I am not too fond of Facebook Live, so I was a little apprehensive in the beginning. And through encouragement and prayer, here I am today talking about why we seek counseling and why it's important for us to seek counseling. There are a lot of misconceptions about therapy out there. And I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions, some of the things that are preventing people from seeking help. Sometimes we hear that it's only crazy people that seek help. When you talk to people about therapy and seeking therapy, they will often say to you, I'm not crazy. I do not need to see somebody. But this is in fact very far from the truth. There are a lot of reasons why people come to counseling. We find that most people come to therapy when they find themselves in crisis. And it's a great thing, but we try to, eliminate the process of coming to therapy while you are in crisis to prevent it before you get to that point of crisis in your life. So when we find ourselves overwhelmed with a lot of problems beyond our control, things that we cannot handle, and we are looking for ways to cope, we may seek help from a counselor. It may include abuse, physical, sexual, emotional. It may be due to some loss that you have suffered. Maybe you have lost a loved one. You have lost a job. There may be trauma that you may have carried from your childhood. Making sure that you are able to deal and to cope with these issues. And then there may be some episodes of mental illness, some diagnoses that you may have encounter. It could be physical illness that you may have been diagnosed with. It could be some form of disability. It could be addictions. It could be stressful situations in your life that has caused you to reach a breaking point in your life. And therefore, you will come to a therapist during that time. We also find that people who are transitioning from a major life event, they will need help adjusting to different stages of their lives. I mentioned that sometimes we find that people who may have a career change, you may have worked in a particular area of your life and you decided now is the time to go somewhere new. You may have a lot of anxieties surrounding that. You may not even know, where to start from. Becoming a parent. This is something that many young parents are kind of anxious about, entering into parenthood. Questions may arise. Will I be a good parent? What are some skills that I need to learn? Sure, we have learned parenting from our families of origins. Growing up in your home, you may have seen the way that your parents brought you up. You may like it. There are some things that you may take from there. There are other things that you will not take. However, you might want to find some skills that will be helpful in helping you to become an effective parent. And so therefore, you might want to seek a therapist to kind of help you go down the path of parenthood. When couples are entering into marriage, sometimes they may seek premarital counseling. When couples are having issues within the marriage, they may seek counseling for marriage therapy. We also find that when there are anger management issues that needs to be addressed, you may not know how to control your anger, or you may have a child who is struggling to control that anger. Counseling can be very helpful. You may have people, family members, loved ones, who may be addicted to drugs and alcohol. And therapy can help you through that process of helping that person with their addictions. You may have a perfect life and you find that, you are off track a little bit and you may need a little tune up. Therapy can help you with that as well. Some individuals may feel stuck in the stages of their life. There are times that we just cannot make sense of what's really happening around us. You have, built this perfect career. You have this great marriage. You have children, but yet you don't feel full. You don't feel like you have reached your full potential and you feel stuck. Sometimes you find yourself in bad relationships over and over and over, and you keep making the same mistakes over and over, and you feel powerless because of these mistakes that you have made, and not knowing really, if you are heading down the right direction. Counseling can help you too with that process. For many young people, forming an identity is something that is very difficult. We find that a lot of young people will pretty much copy what their peers are doing. So therefore, you find that whatever their friends are doing is where they will go. Whatever their friends are doing is what they want to do. And it's kind of hard as parents because we find ourselves as lecturers talking to our children. A therapist can help you bring your child, your youth back on the right path, making some good decision-making skills. A therapist can serve as a sounding board for helping that youth find out their identity, get to know who they are, help them to have a knowledge of themselves, who you are as a person, and not only youth. We find that many adults as well find themselves in situations where at maybe 30, 40, 50 even, they don't even know who they are. You may have gone through certain situations that shock you and kind of change you from that confidence that you had in yourself to something totally different and someone totally different, and you may question really who you are. Therapy can kind of help you bring yourself back on that path. There are some major life decisions that we have to make. In the world where technology gives us all of the answers, you can click on Facebook, you can click on Instagrams, and you see people talking about a perfect life. And some of that can be very disturbing to somebody who is struggling in their day-to-day life, trying to get their life together. And the internet, actually, of things that you will see on the internet can actually drive somebody who is already struggling into depression. Counseling can provide that support. There are others that may be suffering from anxiety related issues. I mentioned anger management. Another one that is very important that I want to mention is blended families. We sometimes enter one marriage, leave it, go to a new marriage, and within that you have the issue. You have stepchildren, you have a step parent, and that blended family can cause a lot of friction within the family. How do you deal with the issue of a blended family? And you may have that sometimes one parent may not like your child that you brought into the marriage, or you may not like the way that parent has parented their child into this marriage, and all of that can cause friction into your relationship. And sometimes it's the children themselves who will, what we call split the parents apart. What they do is they will try to pin one parent against the other, and if you are not careful with that issue, that can cause separation and actual issues within your marriage. Counseling can help bring all of these issues, to a focal point. And when we talk about parenting issues with concerns with parenting, we also talk about addiction, grief, and loss. And then there are eating disorder. When we look online, on TV, magazines nowadays, you see this body image and this body shaming that is promoted, so much so in our young black children, especially young black girls, boys included too. I just don't want us to walk away thinking that it's only black girls, black boys as well, but most so black girls. There is this perfect body image that is expected. And our bodies, we are not shaped like that. We are beautiful just who we are. And sometimes you find that young girls are starving themselves to fit this body image of Hollywood and what they are projecting that we should look like. And so they find themselves, anorexic. They find themselves binge eating. So much so where they will starve themselves to a point where they will actually get sick. This is something that, seeking help from a therapist can help you and help your child work through that issue. Lack of self-esteem, that falls right in with lack of self-esteem. We find that many young people and adults who have been abused, verbal abuse, physical abuse, they have very low self-esteem. And it's even harder for a young person to battle issues of self-esteem. But can you imagine an adult who does not feel that no matter what they do, they are good enough? They feel that they will never be good enough. based on what they have been told from their childhood, based on what people continue to tell them. They may be in a marriage, in a relationship where they are constantly bombarded with negative images of themselves. And so they are struggling. How do I look in the mirror and see who I am and what I see myself to be? But in the back of my mind, I have these negative self-images, things that your parents may have said to you, maybe innocently, but did not know the impact that that negative comment had on you. Teasing is something that growing up we do a lot. We tease each other and it's innocent, it's fun. But there are children who cannot handle the teasing. My family is known for joking around a lot, and sometimes the jokes are kind of a little too heavy. So sometimes we know that when you find yourself in a place where you are a little low on your self-esteem, you find that maybe you are questioning yourself, learning to be, knowing that is true, learning to be assertive. Therapy can help you to learn to be assertive. Seeking therapy and being a Christian, there's nothing wrong with it, guys. I find so many Christians say to themselves, or will say to me, well, I'm going to pray about my issues. It is true. I subscribe to prayer. I'm up at 4 o'clock every morning and I pray. I have a prayer group that I pray with. I definitely would encourage anybody to pray. However, God has given us counsel. He has given us people who we can go to seek counsel, to seek help. There are some things like there are some organic disorders that no matter what you do, you need to take medications for these type of diseases. Something like bipolar, you will need to take medications and pair it with counseling, because what is happening in your brain is something that you will need to be treated by medication and pair with therapy. So I encourage you as Christians as well. And then as Blacks, Africans, Caribbean descent, the culture frowns on therapy. And I really want to encourage, especially we that come from that culture, talk to each other, encourage each other. We find that too many of our folks are in therapy, and it is at the end stage where they find that things are so overwhelming and the crisis is almost overflowing in the point of their life, and then they come and seek help. There is no shame in seeking help. There is no shame in speaking to a therapist. We need to be adamant about our mental health just as we are adamant about our physical health. We go to the doctor, we have an infection, the doctor prescribe you medications, antibiotics to help you with this. You take 2-3 pills and you say, I'm fine, so therefore I will stop taking it. But you are not cured. You definitely are not cured. You have to finish taking every single pill that doctor has prescribed in its entirety to be fully killed. Counseling is the same way. The counseling process in the beginning, as we begin to peel that onion, it takes a while. Sometimes people will say to me, well, I tried therapy. I tried it. I went 2-3 times. It did not work. After 2-3 sessions, you really have not uncovered anything within the therapy process. So you will be doing yourself a disservice if you walked away from that early stage of therapy. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of uncovering some painful past that will help you come to a point of your life where you can be more efficient. And Tamika, that is true. That is very true. Once you have an insurance, you can have access to a therapist. This is true. And I really want to stress the fact that if you are concerned about your health, your regular physical health, you should be just as concerned about your mental health. So folks say to me, why should I seek a therapist? Why shouldn't you seek a therapist? Your life depends on it. That's why. You will be functioning in a state of mind where your entire life is falling apart. Or you will get to a point where your life is falling apart. And most of us are not aware that 95% of physical illnesses starts in the brain. It starts in the mind. And so you have to take care of your mind, guys. You have to take care of your mental status, your mental health. You have to be adamant about seeking help when it comes to how can I go about coping with these situations. There are, issues like stress. Tamika, you are right. There are folks that just cannot cope with stressful situation. And you find that when you're in a high level of stressful situations, you get physical symptoms. You may have back pains. You may have headaches. You may have heart issues. All of these things that attributed to something simple as stress, that when it's not managed appropriately, it can drive you overboard. People panic about making life decisions. When you are entering into a marriage, for example, some folks may have what we call cold feet. Some people may rush into it, and then we see that early on, they find that they have made the wrong decision. Sitting together, getting that advice as to how can I get myself on the right track. Making sure that I have enough self-awareness, self-knowledge of myself. How can I get support? Kimba, it is true. High blood pressure also. So, Noellen asked the question, what are some of the things we can do when we see people needing this kind of help? You can encourage them to seek help. You can encourage them, and hopefully you have enough tips that you can give them reasons why they should seek help. And I usually use the analogy of physical health and mental health. If you had an issue or illness, you will want to seek a doctor to help cure that illness. So if you have issues pertaining to your mental status, you will want to seek a therapist or a counselor to help you with that as well. So encourage them. That's the most that you can do. Let them know that it's very important to seek counseling to help them with that process. We also have to break the stigma of mental health. It is very important that we stop using these cliched words as crazy. I don't need to talk to nobody because they're gonna look at me as I'm weak. I am not a weak person. If I do seek help, people may feel that I cannot handle my issues. If I also, if I belong to a culture that frowns on counseling. So how would you get someone like that to get into counseling? Again, giving them the benefit of therapy. The positives outweigh the risks in this situation. Noellen, your question state that what if it's accurate? I'm not sure what is accurate. Is it their mental status that is accurate, that their situation? Help me clarify that question a little bit, Noellen. Sometimes folks may tell you that, they have friends that they can talk to. It's good. We can all talk to our friends with issues. There's no problem talking to your friends. But there is a difference between talking to a friend, getting advice, than actually getting professional help. There is a big difference. Noellen, I think that you're talking about if it is acute acute help as suicidal, definitely you need to call 911. If you find that you have a family member who is suicidal with an active plan, and what I mean by an active plan is they have spelled out to you what they are going to do. This is how I am going to take my life. I have purchased a gun. I have purchased other things that I will do. And this is my plan. And when that plan is active, it's time that you do whatever that is in your power to commit that person. Commit that person to seek the help that they need. Sometimes driving them there, sometimes making that phone call, for that loved one to make sure that they are in a safe place. The safest place that anybody who is suicidal can be will be in a hospital where they can be observed, especially if they have an active plan. That is one thing that I do not play with at all. That is something that a lot of us, we find that many times before we act, it's too late. Sometimes people will give us clues as to where they are, things that they may say it jokingly. They may say certain things that may strike like, oh my goodness, I'm not taking that as a joke. This person is saying that, they want to kill themselves. And, ask questions about it. Why do you feel this way? What has some things that has changed in your life? Who can you talk to about this? Does anybody else knows about this plan that you have? So have you ever thought about killing yourself before? What did you do? Help them to get what I call some support systems. It may be some phone numbers of people that they can talk to when they find themselves in a state of crisis, and encourage them and those close to them to always seek help, and that is dialing 911. So we see that we have many reasons for counseling. I just want you all to kind of know that the notion that talking to people about your problems and telling people your business sometimes may feel like you're betraying your family, because there are family secrets. Within the African culture, we find that, and I'm sure other cultures as well, you find that people have been raped, people have been molested, and for years it happens within the family. Within the family, it becomes a taboo. You are not allowed to talk about it because it is going to bring disgrace to your family. And so you find yourself harboring all of that guilt, all of that heavy stuff that you can share with a therapist or share with a counselor. What happens at a point in time where you cannot cope with that anymore? It starts to affect your relationship. It starts to affect your life. It starts to affect your ways, how you deal with other people. And you find that people might label you as a difficult person. They may not know what you are going through, what you have been through. They may not know the struggles that are on the inside. But you are being loyal to your family. You are being loyal to that hurt. You are being loyal to that guilt. And therefore, it is causing you to fall apart. Counselors are very sensitive when it comes to unraveling all of these issues. A therapist will be able to help run you through family traditions, things that may be private to your family in a respectful manner. They will also maintain that privacy with you. You can ask for a personal session. Sometimes folks may want to bring their entire family into the session. That's fine too. If you feel that bringing the entire family is something that is going to help get all of those problems solved, that is fine. Sometimes folks are afraid of bringing the issue out. It is true. Folks are afraid of getting the abuse, the rape, whatever it is that has happened. And guys, we need to be aware that even within our own family of origin, family meaning mom, dad, sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, rape happens, abuse happens. People get molested within the family circle. And it is a big issue of secrecy, really. It is true, Noeline, it is embarrassing at times. Elati, it is embarrassing at times. And you know, it is kind of hard to sit before a stranger to tell that perfect stranger, hey, I have been raped, I have been molested, because you come in with the mindset of how would they view me. But the unique thing about counseling is that it is a judgment-free zone. It is a judgment-free zone, and a therapist who is trained and compassionate will sit with you and allow you to unravel all of those issues without judging you. You will not walk away feeling guilty because you told a therapist that, well, I was raped, I was molested, I was abused by a family member, and I felt like it was my fault. A therapist who is compassionate, who is blessed, who is well trained, who is seasoned in the work that they do, will sit with you without judging and help you unravel all of this. It's not speaking to a therapist. Folks may say it's actually worse bringing all of this out because, you know, it's going to be uncomfortable. It is true. It will be uncomfortable because it will force you to go back and to probably relive some of that trauma. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They do not want to relive the trauma. But the best way to work through and to begin your healing process is to go back and to relive and to work through the process. And a therapist will help you to do just that. I have some questions on here that I have been asked. Noeline, you were speaking about making sure that, you know, getting family members help, seeking professional help, dialing 911 in the sense of a crisis. It is true. Mayma, it is true that it is shameful. It is uncomfortable. In the beginning of counseling, it is not an easy process, but I guarantee you the benefit outweighs the painful process in the beginning. You have to trust the process. You have to trust the journey. You have to cry. You have to shake. And a therapist who is compassionate will do all that with you. Will do all that with you. They will sit with you and help you to get through that process. Noeline, mobile crisis, true. In a state of crisis, mobile crisis, we see a lot of that used whenever we have people that have substance abuse issue, whenever there is an overdose in drug addiction, we have mobile crisis unit called. We also have mobile crisis units that are called for, suicide. Ingrid, you are right. Abuse, rape, incest, any of those things is never your fault. Do not walk away feeling that it was your fault. Ingrid, thank you for sharing that. Sometimes the shame that comes with rape and all of these kinds of things, I touched a little bit on the fact that when it's within the family, it's a taboo that we don't talk about. And so therefore, you hold that dearly, that family secret. And you find that, I caused this. If I hadn't done X, Y, and Z, maybe I wouldn't have been raped or molested. And the first thing that, the culture within itself, which is so wrong, and we have to change that. And that is why I hope and pray that we will start to raise awareness for all of these issues. The very first thing that folks may say to you is, what did you do? That is the wrong question to ask somebody who comes to you and say, I was raped, I was molested. What did you do? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? The question should be, honey, what has happened? I am very, very, very sorry for what has happened to you. And work with that individual. Ingrid, I know that it must have been so difficult for you for 20 years. That is such a long time to suffer with that pain and blaming yourself, knowing that deep within yourself, it's something that you did not do. I hope that you are at a place in your life now where your journey probably has started, if not towards the end. And hopefully, that the families around you were able to believe your story or have believed your story. And if there are anybody who may be watching right now this live video who have seen Ingrid sharing her story of suffering with blaming herself for over 20 years, I hope that if that is your story, you will let go of that self-blame, that you will let go of that guilt. It is not your fault. It is not your fault that you were molested. It is not your fault that you were raped. Contrary to what anybody say to you, it is not your fault. And I hope that, as you continue on your journey, you will be able to let go of some of the guilt that surround that. Elati, you said that sometimes mothers do not want to handle or know how to handle. That is true. That is true. This is why a therapist will be perfect in this situation. It is painful for a mom to know that she wasn't there for her child, or the fact that her child was raped. What did she do, or did she not do? Sometimes they sweep it under the rug. They do not want to be embarrassed. They do not want to be ashamed. So therefore, if we don't talk about it, it will not come out. So, don't mention that to nobody, because are you sure that really happened to you? I don't think that really happened to you. Sometimes, we may find that if it's like an uncle or grandfather, a cousin, a brother, a sister, your family members might question you. Are you sure that's exactly what happened? And in so doing that, it also might make you wonder, is this true? I mean, is this story really true? Sometimes you kind of change your narrative based on what people say. And increasing self-awareness within our communities. How to encourage our parents, our mothers, our family members to come forward, even the victims, encouraging them that there is no shame in your story. I'm sorry. I believe you. I believe your story. Noelle, you said a father going to prison and have no money may drive parents to not go forward. It's true. Especially in a culture where when you do report rape and you report abuse of this sort, chances are you will get CPS charges put on you. If you have other children in the home, those kids might be removed from the home. But then again, what else is happening to other children in that home? So if children are being molested and raped in that home, they need to get help. The entire family needs to get help, because that is a toxic situation. Ray, Favor, you said that especially African mothers, they don't want to listen to that. It is true. It is very, very true. We find that in the African Caribbean culture, African American culture as well. And it's something that we need to do better at. We need to increase awareness out there as to how we can start these conversations about making our parents aware, young mothers aware of these kinds of topics. Um, it is true that you can be molested, raped by your family, and it happens within the family. Is most people that you trust, they are the ones who will break that trust because they know that you will be afraid to tell on them. And I tell my boys all the time, we don't keep any secrets. Mothers, encourage your children. There are no secret. If a family member touched you in the wrong area, you tell them. You tell mom, you tell dad, you tell somebody that you can trust. That is not something to hide. You do not hide any secret. And I am not one who is fond of sleepover anyway, because you find that a lot of these things happens at sleepovers within the family, because those are the people, again, that you trust. Those people that you trust might just be predators. There are some individuals within your family, not everybody, who are struggling. And we find also that people who have been raped, who have been molested, they will in turn, repeat the same behaviors onto others too. There's a cliche that hurt people. In lieu of the recent case and story with R. Kelly, we find that people, his family members are coming out. His brother came out and said that he was raped by his sister. He went through sexual abuse from his sister, and it is also said that R. Kelly, also went through that same form of abuse too. So you find that within families. You find that families who have been molested, family members who have been abused, they will in turn abuse others as well. So those are some things that, some red flags within families that we do not pay attention to, and things that we need to pay more attention to. For the longest period of time, the focus was on girls and little girls, and it's still on little girls. Well, I encourage mothers with little boys, children, period. Pay attention to your children. If your child tells you, I do not feel comfortable, being around a certain family member, listen to your child, parents. Listen to your child. Don't force them to sit on that uncle's lap that they're not comfortable sitting on. Do not force them to sit on that aunt's lap or on that cousin's lap that they're not comfortable sitting on. Sometimes we force them to do these things, and then they're afraid to tell you that something has happened because, they might feel like you won't believe them, or the tone has not been set within the family circle where it is an open relationship, an open conversation. These are conversations that should go on with your children. Is anybody touching you some kind of a way, or are you comfortable with being around X, Y, and Z? If you notice something, my boys tell me all the time, Mommy, why do you always ask us that question? Especially when I find, that they're around a huge group of people. I will ask them, are you okay? Are you comfortable? Or these are some things I want you to pay attention to. Going to school every morning. There are kids that are abusing other children in the school, in the bathrooms. It is happening all over, guys. So I didn't want to get on a rant of abuse, but I these are some issues that really, you can seek a counselor for, and kind of breaking the stigma of counseling, why we shouldn't seek counseling, why people may say no to therapy. And I want to add, crazy people do not seek therapy. There are strong, able-bodied people who may find themselves in a life crisis, who may want to, to get a new direction, or where things may be in their life. And therapy will help you get that. It does not mean that you are weak. It does not mean that people will make fun of you. Um, you have trained people who will help you through the process, and so it will be beneficial to you. Instead of suffering alone, you may have, you will have somebody who definitely will help you to work on these issues. So the time is now 7:46, and I will break to answer any questions, to reply to any comments. If you guys have any questions that you would like to throw at me, please feel free to go on. I am just reading the comments. Ingrid, yes, it's true. It's a universal precaution. Do not at all rule anyone out. That is true. Everybody is a suspect. Everyone. I'm getting so hot in here. Um, it is true that you are never alone. Never feel that you are alone when it comes to issues of rape, molestation, abuse. And I encourage as many of us who have stories to tell our stories, because it is in our stories that others might be encouraged. You never know who else has been suffering, and they're ashamed to bring all of this out. So I encourage, as many as we can. You don't have to do it on Facebook. It may just be a casual conversation with somebody, but you may encourage them to bring that. Do you disclose your abuse to potential mate? Um, yes, Elati, even the friendly counselor have her own stories. So do you disclose your abuse to your potential mate? Ingrid, I would say when you have reached that point in your relationship where you trust that that person will be able to handle that conversation. Sometimes that can scare people away in the beginning, because again, everybody is not where you are in your journey. So I would say that, it's okay to disclose, preferably before you get married, but at a point where you feel that and you feel ready that this individual will be able to handle the information that you're giving them. Noelin, you said with drug, what is the best way to get help and why? So I'm finding more and more, especially with our young people, and since marijuana has been legalized, yes, marijuana studies have shown that, especially for boys, it will drop your sperm count dramatically. So we find a lot of research is now showing that there are a lot of children that are born with autism. The studies, John Hopkins did a study on autism, linking it to marijuana and drug use. What can you do if you have a youth who is addicted to drugs? The best way is to get them into substance abuse counseling. I hear children tell me in therapy all the time, I just smoke as a recreational, thing. Miss Quita, I don't smoke every day. It is a crisis right now in our community, in our churches. And, it's okay for us to sweep it under the rug and hide it, because we don't want for folks to look at our children as, well, my child is out there in the word, but get help. Nobody is judging you. Get help for your child, get help for your children. Encourage them of the, why it's dangerous to use drugs and alcohol. Encourage them why they should stop and seek help. And if it has come to a point where they are in a addiction, the need to go through rehab and the need to be detoxed and go through that entire process. Is Is it okay to disclose? I think, Ingrid, I answered that question as far as disclosing. Only if you are comfortable with disclosing and if you feel that that individual will be able to handle, the information that you will disclose. I do not encourage you telling a potential mate on your very first few days that, hey, I have been abused, I have been molested. That will scare them off. That will scare them off. Can you imagine just meeting somebody and they tell you that they have an addiction problem? You will run. So you have to give them chance to get to know you, to know where you are in your journey, and and you to get to know where they are and how they are able to cope with certain situations. Sandra said that, is it ever too late to report a rape, especially if you are in contact with the individual who raped you? It is never too late to report a rape. It is never too late to report a rape. In fact, you can report it, and it depends on, even though on the situation, they might, depending, every state have different laws. You can always report it, and if you have actually passed that time frame of when that rape should have been noted, then you will be advised by that worker as to how they will go from there. But I encourage you, if you are in contact with that individual who raped, molested you, you are definitely in a position to report that rape. There is no time frame on that. And whichever way, it goes, the fact that you have been able to report and to get that off your chest, the next step, if you are struggling with situations where you were raped, the next step will be to get help so that a therapist, a counselor will help you work through those issues. Because the first step sometimes is to admitting, I was raped. It was not my fault. I was molested. It was not my fault. However, how can I heal? And the healing process begins the moment you start to talk about it, to bring all of that out and to kind of walk through the process. Thank you for that question, Sandra. Are there any questions, guys? I thank you all for tuning in tonight. It has been very interactive. I look forward to doing more Facebook Live video with you all. I hope that you will, inbox me about some topics that you want me to discuss in the future. I look forward to, and hopefully I'm hoping to do this once a week. There are a lot of topics that I feel will be beneficial to us as a community, as a group, and I want you to let me know what are some things that you would like to see me discuss on my next segment. Invite your friends, invite as many people as you would like. Come with lots of questions. I appreciate all of the questions tonight. I thank you all once more for participating. I am very happy that all of you guys tune in to the Friendly Counselor segment tonight. I have one more question. Intimacy can be very difficult with marriage. How can you talk about that? Yeah, definitely. When it comes to intimacy and individuals that has been raped, that is really Elati is free. That is true. You're getting free counseling. That is really something. When it comes to intimacy, Ingrid, that is difficult. Again, that goes to the piece of the self-esteem issue. When you have blamed yourself for a rape or been abused, molested for so long, you don't view yourself as a whole person. It is kind of hard for you to be intimate with somebody who, in your mind, you may be projecting what they feel about you based on what you feel about yourself. And so you go over into that relationship thinking that definitely they may, they don't view me as anybody who is good or valuable, or you are just afraid to trust anybody in bed because you have been molested and or you have been raped. And that is definitely something, Ingrid, that I can, touch more on within a future segment. If there are no more questions, I see 2 months ago a 9-year-old child was abused by her mother's boyfriend. Yeah, wow. It's really sad. Definitely, this is really sad. This is very much really, really sad. And Favor, I am very happy that even in Liberia, they are persecuting predators. So that is great news to my ear, because as we know, the Liberian culture, the African culture, the Caribbean culture, African American culture, we do not encourage our children, our loved ones, our family members to come forward to report cases of rape, molestation. So I'm very happy to know that, in this situation, this individual was actually persecuted. I hope that in the future we will see more of that in Liberia. I hope that we will have more, conversations around why people should speak up against rape, against, incest within families. It is wrong. We need more people to come out and speak against it within our culture, within our communities, within our churches. We need to come forward and speak against it. So I am a licensed therapist, as most of you who have joined me may know. I also have a private practice, and I could be contacted via email at quidaroberts@yahoo.com. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. If you will need, any information on some of the issues or some of the tips that I shared tonight. If you will, if you know a family member or you know somebody who would like to seek counseling, you can call me at any time, and we can work something out. If I cannot see that individual, I can definitely refer somebody. So thank you guys so much. Kolu, you said that you saw that on the news the other day in Liberia. Yeah, Liberia is gradually getting there, and I hope that we will be more adamant about getting the word out, changing our narratives, sharing our stories, starting conversations surrounding all of these things. My time is out, guys. Thank you all so much. It's been wonderful spending the time with you. Stay tuned for more topics. Inbox me whatever topics that you will want to talk about in the future, and I will do my best to accommodate that. Thank you all for coming on tonight, and have a wonderful evening.